Hello, Darkest Dungeoners. I'm your host, Get Good Fox. We're going to be doing a little bit of catch-up here. So I never read the November 4th changes for Darkest Dungeon 2, and that means there's probably a lot of things that I just don't know, and maybe you don't know it either. I will warn you that there are a lot of changes in the November 4th patch, so you have been warned. Anyways, here we go. A massive academics cache of fixes, tuning, and audio and visual polish. First, the bug fixes. Fixed several combat affinity changes for healing and buffing that were broken and now should trigger correctly. These not working contributed to the problem that affinity changes were often due to illogical or annoying things like kill stealing. A fix for a corrupt save issue which was caused by combat getting in a state where it would infinitely create saves. We fixed an inventory exploit, various improvements to our saving method to reduce file size and work more efficiently with our in-game report tool, updated the replay cinematic button at the House of Denial to be more legible, recognizable for relating to the cinematic. Audrey, that would be the grave robber, is now holding her daggers more appropriately when forming a relationship with others. Paracelsus, who is the plague doctor, her bag no longer disappears when forming a relationship with others. Fixed to combat barks not spawning. Combat barks are just the speech bubbles when people talk. Characters will now be a bit more chatty while in combat, but don't worry, these won't be as interruptive as act outs. Act outs is when it freezes things and the characters come together and they either say something nice or something negative. Fixed an issue with hotkey mapping for skills in combat. Various subtitle fixes. Fix for missing monitor select dropdown added friendly monitor names. Updated stress bar pips to better communicate important affinity thresholds. Fix for the meltdowns and act outs happening during hero story fights from driving stress. Fix for dysentery effect, double applying on load. Fix for recovery marker not triggering on riposte. Disable fight breaking act out combo on taproot. Fixes some item drag issue, one of which led to a soft lock. Fix to quirk log entries showing up from leper hero story fight. A fix for the pit fighter's death door condition. Fix to dreaming general soft lock. Remove IO's weight when actors don't have a death timeline to fix turns being calculated with dead/removed actors. If you don't understand some of this stuff, let me tell you, neither do I. Fix to removing a quirk that you have an act out for at the hospital. Fix for some enemy heals not showing pop text. Replace quirk icon reward with the correct version. Fix to a token view on death soft lock. Update game credits. In-game cinematics can now always be skipped. Added min cost to the store cost multiplier to prevent items from costing 0. Fixed DOT triggering again at the start of turn if you previously quit and then loaded back into combat. Fixes for end of combat issues that could result in rendering errors or post-skill effects being skipped. And now for the much shorter UI changes. Increased font size for bottom left tooltips in combat. Additional resist labels for tooltips. Added relic cost displays to bribe resist story choices. Biome goal label color update. Now on to the gameplay changes. The affinity system relationships. Large tuning paths based upon first observation. Short-term goal is to have less chatter and instead have a smaller number of more meaningful moments. Affinity changes. Fixed up several important but broken affinity change events to do with healing and buffing. Reduced proc rates for many affinity change events, especially the most annoying ones. Increased effects of the most meaningful and logical affinity changes. For example, Hero A is on death's door, and Hero B chooses to heal someone else, and Hero A gets upset. Relationship act-outs. Audit and adjustment of all proc rates, further iteration expected, generally increase magnitude of the things that positive and negative act-outs can do, looking for bigger moments and less noise and interruptions. Added variety to some positive and negative act-outs. For example, buffs might now include other tokens besides strength. Debuffs can include variety effects too. Relationship stat bonuses. reduced relationship DOT resist buffs and debuffs because they were stacking too high, reduced relationship death blow resist buffs and debuffs because they were also stacking too high, meltdown. New stress after meltdown is 2. It was 5. Chance of meltdown quirk reduced a bit. The goal was to reduce meltdown cycles. Meltdown will no longer give the lost in quirk. Those are reserved for cosmic stuff. Changes to heroes. Reduced cap death blow resist to 90% from the original 95%. Stress recovery from skills now operates on thresholds similar to healing. Tooltips related to stress threshold have been updated for better legibility. Prevent numerous skills from being used on corpses. Grave Robber's Absinthe now has a limit of 3 uses per battle, I assume. Grave Robber's Dead of Night no longer triggers effects if it misses. Highwayman's Riposte max damage has been slightly reduced. Highwayman's Riposte crit rate has been slightly reduced. Highwayman's Take Aim Plus now grants 1 dodge instead of 2. Jester's Inspiring Tune has a slightly lower stress threshold requiring for use. Man-at-Arms Riposte max damage has been slightly reduced. Man-at-Arms Bolster has been reworked. Plague Doctor's Ounce of Prevention Plus now only heals stress at a threshold. Hellions Raucous Revelry and Raucous Revelry Plus now only heals stress at a certain threshold. Adjusted description of Hellion's Winded token to reflect that it persists until combat end. Occultist's Weird Reconstruction no longer has a battle limit. Let the 0 heal bleeds commence in abundance. Fanatics. Blind Shaman's Blazing Aegis now has a 2-round cooldown. Oh, by the way, this is for the Blaze of the Sprawl enemies. Whipper's Smoke'em no longer does damage and continues to ignore riposte accordingly. Plague Eater changes. This would be the Foder enemies. Plague Eater Bilious skills are now guaranteed to be used on their next action after consuming a corpse, because it means you can predict the move more easily. Lost Battalion changes. These would be the Tangle enemies. Lost Battalion Knight clears blind when he uses On Guard. That's his counterattacking ability. Foot Soldier can no longer resist the taunt component of the drummer's defensive formation buff. Bullseye Beret can no longer fail to use Marked for Death because he's blind. Cultist Changes. Raise proc rate of worship tokens on Evangelist and Cherub abilities to 100% from the original 67% on most abilities. The Evangelist/Cherub worship skill will activate automatically on round start if they have sufficient worship to a maximum of once per round. Using the worship skill now grants a 25% heal and clears DOTs on the targeted deacon or cardinal. Those are the big, large enemies. Raised the minimum damage on Deacon's Flesh from Bone. Fixed launch ranks for Deacon's Flesh from Bone. Increased damage of Deacon's Weight of Worlds. Deacon now uses the Flesh Warp at combat start instead of on his first turn. Deacon's Sundering Steel removes block tokens, but still respects them for damage reduction on the hit itself. Cardinal's Exaltation now ignores and clears riposte tokens. Pillagers, so this has a spoiler thing I gotta drop down. I will do them last so that you have a chance to not hear any spoilers. Other changes. Shambler mobility has been fixed when using skills. Shambler behavior has been slightly adjusted. The Dreaming General changes. Taproot is no longer subject to retaliation or group attack actions which cause the fight to stop functioning. Dreaming General's Strangle DOTs will no longer travel with a hero should the line collapse. A hero will now bark when using Whispering Darkness. The Denial boss, also spoilers here, we'll save it to the end. Hero stories. Dismas's story number 1 adjusted the description of Inhale to hopefully more elegantly outline that it cannot be dodged. Paracelsus Backstory 1 moved the stress heal component of Rebuttal to the Professor's Cough so you can't face tank the fight by spamming it. Added Barks to Cower and Rally skills in Hellion Chapter 2. Increased damage from enemies in Hellion Chapter 2. and miscellaneous gameplay changes. Updated and added some tutorials, added more party names, sluice fixes, fixed to generation so they can appear anywhere between valley and mountain instead of only in one spot. Battle modifier shaping. Reduce the chance in Region 1. Increase chances in later biomes. Increased battle modifier chance with lower torch. Increased power of some battle modifier. So that's when the enemies get like special buffs. Battle configuration, shaping experiments. No hards in first non-valley region. No easies once you are at the third full biome past the valley. Double ghoul barricade mash no longer has a round limit. 2 ghouls enter, no ghouls leave. Base scouting, 45% has been reduced to 37.5%. The goal is to ensure that scouting stagecoach upgrades on the watchtower are valuable. Base chance of quirk at the inn is now 75% increased to 80, or is it decreased? I think it's been decreased to 75% from 80%. Reduced mastery point loot proc rate at road combats. These are not the primary sources of mastery points, but they are a nice bonus when they happen. Changed hope bonus for killing bosses from 200 to 400 to incentivize more boss kills. So they doubled the amount of hope you get for taking a boss down. Antiquarian trinkets, wealth threshold to trigger their power reduced from 75 to 35 to make them more valuable. Fixes to Pillager battle configurations that had Crackshot in rank 1, where he's useless. Guard token description fix. Fix to stimulating poultice tooltip to make it more accurate. Adjusted mop cost down. Encounter changes. Added disease glyph to appropriate choices. Fixed mystery loot glyph in caged creature cosmic story. Avoid story alignment added. Disharmonious definitions. Miscellaneous fixes to barks and icons and alignments. And they have a list of known issues, which includes 1. The Jumbo Trunk is still missing its item art. If anyone has seen it, please send it home. Anyways, on to the spoiler changes. Alright, so the Pillagers. These are the bandits. Antiquarians Protect Me now pushes Hatchetman to the front and Crackshot to the back instead of forcing everyone to the front equally. Antiquarian Invigorating Vapors now grants 1 strength token at a 25% chance in addition to the dodge. Antiquarian Invigorating Vapors now affects herself in addition to teammates. Antiquarian Invigorating Vapors can no longer target corpses. So these all had to do with the Antiquarian member of the Pillagers. And finally, the Denial boss, who I like to call Brainiac. Skill changes. HP raised to 90 for all the locks, increasing overall HP of battle from 360 up from the original 300. So that means I guess they had 75 health per lock. Shared skill, Paralyzing Fear, now inflicts vulnerable in addition to the existing 75% chance of a stun. Latch of Regrets, Ruptured Vessel now inflicts weak. Bolt of Lamentation, Mental Lashes now inflict blind. Behavioral changes. Whichever lock uses Denial will also use their unique attack that round, increasing the total number of attacks each round by 1. Locks will abide by the 3-round Denial cooldown as long as 3 or more locks remain. At 2 locks, they no longer respect cooldown, and 1 will always use Denial and their unique skill. At 1 lock, the remaining monster will use its Denial and unique ability every round. In addition, each lock generates a unique buff on all surviving locks. When it dies, the buff lasts for the duration of the fight. Fixed several hero skills that were inappropriately locked by certain denials, which is the ability that just prevents you from using certain skills such as no healing or no stress heals, no melee attacks, no ranged attacks, and so forth. Anyways, whew, man, that was some big changes. Apologies for any of the words I tripped over, but at any rate, like the video if it was informative, subscribe for future Darkest Dungeon 2 content, and of course remember that you don't have to be good to get good.